In the grand theater of existence, there's one final act every living thing must perform. It's the one curtain call from which no one is exempt. It's the great mystery, the ultimate unknown, the question that's echoed in the heart of humanity since we first looked up at the stars. What happens when we die? We build empires, chase fleeting pleasures, and gather all the knowledge we can. But we do it all under the shadow of this inevitable end. We whisper about heavens and hells. We dream of second chances and reincarnation. We theorize about fading into nothingness. But what if you could just ask death itself? What if you had the chance to stand before the final judge of fate and demand an answer? This isn't just some fantasy. It's the story of a courage so deep it forced the hand of a god. It's the story of a young boy who, armed with nothing but integrity and a thirst for truth, willingly walked into the domain of death. He was offered the world, but he refused it. He was offered power, but he turned it away. Instead, he asked for 3 boons, 3 wishes that would pull back the curtain on reality and reveal the most guarded secrets of our universe.
The air was thick with sacred smoke and the low hum of ancient chants, but beneath the surface of the holy ritual, a poison was brewing. The great sage, Vajrashrava, had vowed to give away all his worldly possessions in a grand sacrifice, a spiritual payment meant to earn him a spot in the heavens. But he was following the letter of the law while mocking its spirit. To the altar he brought his cattle, not the strong and healthy ones, but the old, the lame, the barren, the blind. These were cows whose milk had long run dry, whose bodies were little more than walking skeletons. They were worthless gifts, a hollow gesture disguised as piety. Watching from the side was his young son, Nachiketa. He saw the lie at the heart of his father's grand performance. Faith burned in the boy's heart, a pure and demanding fire, and he couldn't stand to see it insulted. He approached his father, his voice quiet but firm. "Father," he asked, "a sacrifice requires you to give away everything you own. I am also your possession. To whom will you give me?" Vajrashrava, his focus shattered and his guilt pricked, ignored him. Nachiketa asked again, and again, silence. The boy, in his innocent persistence, asked a 3rd time, "Father, to whom will you give me?" Something inside the great sage snapped. The shame of his fake sacrifice, twisted by his son's relentless innocence, erupted in fury. "To death!" he roared, his voice cracking like thunder. "Unto Yama, the god of death, I give you." A dead silence fell over the ceremony. The priests froze. The chants died. A sentence had been passed, a curse spoken in anger, but sealed by the sacred ritual. The boy, Nachiketa, didn't flinch, he didn't cry. He simply bowed his head in acceptance. His father's word was final, and so a child, condemned by a fit of rage, began his journey to the house of death itself, not as a victim, but as an offering. The path to Yama's home isn't on any map.
It's not a journey of distance, but of transition. For Nachiketa, it was a quiet fading from the world of the living, a solemn walk into the heart of shadow. The vibrant colors of his world bled into muted grays. The warmth of the sun gave way to a persistent, impartial cool. There was no terror here, just a profound and overwhelming stillness. He arrived at a great gate, the threshold separating what is from what comes after. But the master of the house wasn't home. Yama, the lord of death, was away, presiding over the endless rhythm of departure that governs the cosmos. So, Nachiketa waited. He was a guest on the doorstep of the dead, and in his tradition, a guest, especially a Brahmin, was to be honored like a god. He waited for one day, his stomach empty. He waited for two, the silence of the realm seeping into his bones. He waited for 3 full days and nights, a solitary flame of life in a land of endings, sustained by nothing but his conviction. When Yama finally returned, he wasn't some malevolent demon, but a king of cosmic law, stern, majestic, and utterly just. When he saw the young boy waiting at his door, starved and ignored for 3 nights, the Lord of Death was filled with shame. To neglect a guest was a grave spiritual crime, one that could unravel the very order he was sworn to protect. His voice, which had commanded legions of souls, was laced with apology. "O Brahmin boy," Yama began, "you have waited in my house for 3 nights without hospitality. This is a stain on my honor. To make up for this, for each night you have waited, I will grant you a wish. Ask 3 things of me, and whatever they may be, they're yours." Here it was, an impossible opportunity. A child standing before the one being all mortals fear, holding a blank check for any 3 desires. He could have asked for a kingdom. He could have wished for a life of unending pleasure. But Nachiketa's heart wasn't set on the world he'd left behind. His journey had sharpened his purpose, focusing him on questions much bigger than mortal wealth. He had come to the house of death for answers, and he wasn't about to be distracted. He met Yama's gaze, his own eyes clear and steady. He knew exactly what he would ask.
For his first wish, Nachiketa didn't think of himself. His mind went back to his father, a man so consumed by ritual and rage that he'd sent his own son here. He thought of the regret that must be eating away at Vajrastravan now, a guilt far heavier than any flawed sacrifice. "O Lord of Death," Nachiketa said, his voice ringing with a maturity far beyond his years. "For my first boon, I ask this. When I return to the world of the living, let my father be free from his anxiety. Let his anger towards me be gone. May he be calm, and may he recognize me and greet me with love, not with the memory of his curse." Yama looked at the boy with a flicker of admiration. It was a simple, selfless wish, rooted in compassion. He expected a demand for power or riches, the usual requests. But this child asked for peace, for reconciliation. It was a request born not of greed, but of love. Granted, Yama declared. Your father's anger will be extinguished. When he sees you again, his heart will be unburdened, and he will welcome you with all the love a father has for his son. This I grant you without hesitation. Now ask your second boon. One wish was spent, a wish to heal the past. Now Nachiketa turned to the future, not just his own, but the future promised to all good souls. He knew the scriptures, he knew of heaven, or Swarga, a place free from old age, hunger, and fear. It was the reward for a life well lived, the goal for so many who toiled and prayed on earth. But how did one really get there? The rituals were complicated, the knowledge often hidden. If his own father, a great sage, could mess up a sacrifice, what hope was there for ordinary people? He wanted the blueprint. He wanted the secret to building that bridge to the heavens. Lord Yama, Nachiketa said, his focus sharpening. In heaven, there is no fear. You are not there. No one fears old age. For my second boon, I ask that you teach me the secret of the sacred fire ritual, the knowledge that leads a soul to that heaven where they can enjoy a life without death. Yama's demeanor shifted. This was a much bigger ask. The first boon was about mortal feelings. This touched on the sacred mechanics of the cosmos itself. This was guarded information, knowledge that could disrupt the balance of the universe.
Yama paused, studying the boy. He saw no lust for power in Nachiketa's eyes, only a sincere, burning curiosity. He saw a mind that didn't just want the prize, but wanted to understand the process. It was this purity that swayed the god of death. This knowledge is guarded, Yama said slowly, but your resolve is impressive. Very well. I will teach you the fire sacrifice that is a bridge to heaven. And so, in the heart of the underworld, the Lord of Death became a spiritual guide. He described how to build the sacred altar, the number and shape of the bricks, the specific chants and offerings. He explained that this fire wasn't just a physical flame, but a focus of consciousness so powerful it could propel a soul to another world. Nachiketa listened with perfect concentration, absorbing every single detail. He understood it all instantly and completely. Impressed beyond words, Yama decided to give him an extra gift. Nachiketa, he proclaimed, because you have grasped this profound knowledge so perfectly, from this day on, this sacred fire will be known by your name. It will be called the Nachiketa fire. He added, anyone who performs this fire sacrifice 3 times, who lives a life of study, charity, and austerity, will cross beyond birth and death. Your second boon is granted, and it now carries your name for all time. A profound secret had been revealed. The path to heaven was now clear. For most people, this would have been it, the ultimate achievement. What more could anyone possibly want? But as the lesson faded, a deep and unsettling question began to bother Nachiketa. Heaven was a reward, a long-lasting paradise, sure, but it was still a place,
And all places, all states of being, are by their nature finite. The good deeds that get you there must eventually run out. So what happens then? Is heaven just a beautiful cage? A temporary vacation before the soul is thrown back into the endless cycle of birth and death? He realized his second boon had only given him a map to a destination. It hadn't told him anything about the traveler. He'd learned how to reach a temporary paradise, but he still didn't know the fundamental nature of his own soul. The second boon showed him a glorious ceiling, but Nachiketa now suspected the real secret was beyond the roof of the entire universe. His first wish settled his past. His second secured a potential future. Now, with his third and final wish, he wouldn't ask for a map. He would ask about existence itself. He would ask the one question at the heart of all fear, all hope, and all religion. The question that even the gods were said to argue about.
Nachiketa stood before the Lord of Death, the weight of his final question settling on him. This was it, his last chance. "O Lord of Death," he began, his voice steady, "there is a great doubt that comes up when a person dies. Some say the self, the soul, continues to exist. Others say it doesn't. For my third and final boon, I want you to teach me the ultimate truth of this. What really happens when we die? Does our essence survive, or is it all just over?" A deep silence fell over the realm of death. This was the question Yama had been dreading. He was the administrator of death's laws, but the truth of what lay beyond its gates was so powerful, so reality-shattering, it wasn't meant for mortal ears. Yama's face, usually a mask of stoic authority, was now full of reluctance. "On this point, even the gods have their doubts," he pleaded. "It's a subtle truth, not easily understood. Choose another boon, Nachiketa. Please don't press me on this. Release me from this promise." But Nachiketa's resolve was absolute. "Lord of Death," he replied, "if even the gods have doubted this, and you say it's not easily understood, then who could possibly be a better teacher than you? And surely no other boon could ever be as great as this one. I will have this knowledge and nothing else." Yama saw the boy couldn't be talked out of it, so he changed tactics. He decided to tempt him to offer Nachiketa everything a mortal could ever dream of, hoping to make this deep question seem foolish in comparison. "Nachiketa, forget this dark and difficult question. Ask for sons and grandsons who will live 100 years. Ask for herds of cattle, for elephants, horses, and gold. Ask for a vast kingdom on earth and live as long as you want. I will make you the ruler of a great empire." Visions bloomed in Nachiketa's mind. Shining palaces, treasuries overflowing with jewels, armies marching under his command. "Ask for wealth and a long life. Rule over the whole earth, Nachiketa. I will make you the enjoyer of all your desires." The visions grew more intense. "Whatever is hardest to get in the mortal world, just ask. Look, here are celestial dancers with their chariots and music, things no mortal man can have. I'll give them to you to serve you. But please, Nachiketa, do not ask me what happens after death." Yama had laid the entire world at the boy's feet. Wealth, family, power, pleasure, and a life far beyond any normal limit. It was a temptation designed to drown any soul in a sea of delight. But Nachiketa looked at these phantoms of pleasure and saw them for exactly what they were: a trap. His response was calm, measured, and completely destroyed Yama's strategy. "O Lord of Death," the boy said, his voice cutting through the illusions, "these things you offer, they're temporary. They last only until tomorrow. These very pleasures wear out our senses, and even the longest life is pathetically short when compared to eternity. Keep your horses, your songs, and your dances for yourself." He paused. No person can ever be truly satisfied by wealth. Now that I've seen you, I could have wealth if I wanted it. I could live as long as you command. But that is not the boon I want. What mortal on earth, knowing they will grow old and die, would trade the ultimate truth for a long life, knowing how fleeting beauty and pleasure really are? "Tell me," he insisted, his voice rising with unshakable passion, "that great secret, the mystery of what comes next. Nachiketa asks for no other boon than this." Yama was defeated. The temptations had failed. The boy's integrity was absolute. He had chosen wisdom over wealth, the eternal over the temporary. In that moment of refusal, Nachiketa had finally proven himself worthy of the knowledge he sought. The student was ready. A slow smile spread across the face of the Lord of Death. The test was over. His reluctance turned to admiration. He had found a disciple worthy of the ultimate truth. The good is one thing. The pleasant is another. They both bind a person, but with different goals. The one who chooses the good finds blessedness. The one who chooses the pleasant falls away from their true purpose. You, Nachiketa, have looked at all the pleasant things and wisely given them up. You have not taken the path of riches where so many get lost. I see now that you are ready for this knowledge." And so the great teaching began. "Listen carefully, Nachiketa," Yama said. "The secret you're looking for isn't about a place you go after you die. It's about what you are right now and what you have always been. The fool, distracted by shiny things, doesn't see the path. He thinks this world is all there is, and so he falls under my control again and again. What you're searching for is the ultimate reality, the self. It's a marvel that so few ever speak of it, and even fewer can understand it. You can't grasp it with arguments or intellect alone. It has to be realized." To explain this, Yama used a powerful metaphor, the chariot. It's a way of seeing the human experience not as a mess of impulses, but as a vehicle that you can either master or let crash. Know the self, the Atman, as the master of a chariot, Yama explained. Your physical body is the chariot itself. It's your vehicle for getting through the world, strong and useful, but it's not you. Your five senses, sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, are the horses pulling the chariot. They're powerful and full of energy, always trying to pull you toward the things they desire. A beautiful sight, a delicious meal, these are the roads the horses want to run down. The mind, Yama continued, is the reins. It's how you're supposed to guide and control those horses. If the reins are slack because your hand is inattentive, the horses will run wild, dragging the chariot down dangerous paths and into ditches. Now the intellect, your faculty of reason, is the charioteer. The charioteer's job is to hold the reins of the mind firmly and guide the horses of the senses where the master of the chariot wants to go. A good charioteer is awake, skillful, and knows the destination. A bad one is sleepy, unskilled, or has no idea where he is going. And who is the master of the chariot, the passenger riding inside? Yama asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. That, Nachiketa, is your true self, the Atman. It's the silent, witnessing consciousness that is the real owner of the body, senses, mind, and intellect. The journey is for its sake.
Yama then laid out the two ways this can go. The person who lacks understanding, whose mind is never steady, is like a man with a foolish charioteer and wild horses. His senses are out of control. His chariot is pulled all over the place, chasing fleeting pleasures, and he never reaches his destination. Instead, he's caught in the endless cycle of birth and death, crashing one chariot only to be given another and another. But, Yama said, his voice filled with promise, the one who has understanding, who has a disciplined mind, and whose senses are under control, he has a skillful charioteer and well-behaved horses. His intellect guides his mind controls his senses, and the chariot moves smoothly toward its true destination. That person reaches the end of the journey. He is not born again. This was the secret. The key to liberation wasn't a ritual or a prayer. It was self-mastery. It was about aligning your entire system, body, senses, mind, and intellect, with the true purpose of the self, which is to realize its own divine nature. Death isn't an end, but a result of living an uncontrolled life. True immortality isn't a gift you get after you die. It's a state you achieve while you're alive, through the hard work of mastering yourself. But one final question remained. What is this self? Yama leaned in to deliver the final, most secret part of the teaching. The self, the Atman, is the ultimate reality, he stated. It is smaller than the smallest atom, yet greater than the greatest galaxy. It is unborn, eternal, and ancient. It is not killed when the body is killed. It is pure consciousness. It's the light that makes everything else shine. The sun doesn't light it up, nor the moon, nor the stars. When it shines, everything else shines after it. By its light, this entire world is illuminated. This eternal, unchanging self is present in the heart of every living being. It is the true I. The body dies, the mind thinks, the senses perceive, but the self simply is. The goal of life, the secret that unlocks everything, is to turn your awareness inward, past the body, past the senses, past the mind, and recognize this silent, blissful witness as who you really are. When you realize that you are not the chariot, not the horses, not the reins, not even the charioteer, but the eternal master of the chariot, you become free. You're liberated from fear, from desire, and from me. You attain immortality. The third boon was granted. In the silent realm of death, Nachiketa had received the knowledge of life itself. He had learned that the secret to conquering death wasn't to live forever in the body, but to realize the part of you that was never born and could never die.
The journey of Nachiketa is more than just an ancient story. It's a roadmap for the human spirit. It teaches us that the deepest answers aren't found in power or pleasure, but in the courage to look within. It challenges us to ask our own hard questions, to tell the difference between what's just pleasant and what's actually good for us. If this dive into ancient wisdom resonates with you, subscribe to our channel. We explore these profound stories every week, searching for the knowledge that has guided humanity for thousands of years. Click the notification bell so you don't miss our next journey. And in the comments below, let us know, if you could ask the universe one question, what would it be?
Yama, the god of death, blessed Nachiketa. Having received this knowledge from me, he said, and having learned the whole process of self-realization, you have found the ultimate reality. You have become free from passion and free from death, and so shall anyone else who comes to know this secret of the eternal self. True to Yama's word, Nachiketa returned to the world of the living. He was greeted by his father, whose anger was gone, replaced by a deep and peaceful love. But the boy was no longer just a boy. He was the carrier of a sacred fire, a living example of the knowledge that strips death of its terror. He had faced the ultimate fear and didn't flinch. He was offered the world and calmly refused. He chose knowledge over power and truth over pleasure. In doing so, he achieved the greatest victory there is, mastery over himself. The story of Nachiketa isn't just about a boy who talked to a god. It's a timeless story for the journey of every human soul. We are all faced with the choice between the pleasant and the good. We are all the masters of our own chariots, with senses that pull us in 1,000 different directions. And we all live in the shadow of the same great question. The tale reminds us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the relentless search for truth in spite of it. It teaches that the greatest secrets aren't hidden in some faraway heaven, but deep within our own hearts. Nachiketa didn't conquer death by destroying it, but by understanding it. He unlocked the secrets of the universe not by looking out at the stars, but by looking into his own self and finding the universe looking back.